much all of you have heard of Sesame Street, so it needs no introduction. It's the longest running kids show in America, based around the titular denizens of Sesame Street, with some human and some Muppets. When I was a kid, I would almost constantly watch it. It was one of, if not one of my favorite shows for quite a while. Of course, I've moved on to other shows, but it always held a special place in my heart. I loved the characters, the music, the stories. Everything felt perfect to my childhood self. Recently, my kid Millie just turned 4, and I wanted to give her some of my old Sesame Street tapes as a birthday present. She was so excited, as it was one of her favorite shows too. I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree then, eh? Well, immediately after getting them, she zipped to the TV and started to watch them. I, of course, joined in for a little blast from the past, and boy, was it a blast. It was so nice spending time with her. I wanted it to last forever. But eventually, day turned to night and Millie fell asleep. I took her to bed and let her doze the night away. I returned to the living room shortly after to continue my Sesame Street binge. I was on the last disc, and the last episode began to play. There was no intro, so I couldn't tell which episode it was, but I was ready to relive childhood memories, though I did know it was sometime in the 90s. The episode started with Gordon introducing the episode. He was standing next to the big pole where the iconic Sesame Street sign laid when Mr. Snuffleupagus came by. He was there waiting for Big Bird for a day of fun and was telling Gordon about the fun things that he had planned. Gordon later departed, saying goodbye to Snuffy and leaving him alone. Where Gordon once stood was a man that appeared out of nowhere. He was a tall, skinny white man, wearing a black trench coat, pants, shoes, and a fedora. He also had with him a black umbrella, which he had held into the air, even though there was no rain or wind. Eerie, low-pitched music started to play, and the scene faded out. The scene transitioned to Big Bird walking down the street, finding himself at the titular pole, but finding no sign of Snuffy. Gordon came by and asked Big Bird what he was doing, to which he said he was waiting for Snuffy. He started saying what the fun things that they had planned that day, which was quoting Snuffy verbatim until Gordon interrupted him. Gordon told Big Bird that he saw Snuffy just minutes earlier, and they both got a concerned look. They then searched out looking for Snuffy, and the scene ended. After that scene, a quick cartoon played. I didn't remember this episode, but I chalked it up to being a bad memory, but I was interested to see where it was going. The next scene showed Elmo and Zoe playing in the park together. They were playing with blocks and balls and playing a counting game with them. After a minute of them playing the game, Elmo excused himself and left, and just behind where Elmo stood, the Umbrella Man was there, just in front of the bushes. The same music played and the scene fitted to where Elmo was just coming back. Elmo found that Zoe was gone, and he became worried. He found Gordon and Big Bird looking for Snuffy and told them about Zoe, to which they took to finding both Snuffy and Zoe at the same time. Later, a scene showed the search party becoming bigger, with more people coming to aid in the search. Gordon stopped by a tree to relax for a minute, and Big Bird was getting worried and repeatedly asking Gordon to get up. Gordon calmly told Big Bird not to worry and that he'd catch up with them in a minute. Big Bird left and the Umbrella Man was right where he stood. The man started walking towards Gordon, but just before he got to him, the scene ended. The next scene showed Big Bird worrying about Gordon and his friends, when Ruthie came up and told everyone that Gordon, Grover, and Cookie Monster were missing. This caused a bit of a commotion until Mr. Hanford settled the tension with a positive and persuasive speech. The crowd's noise died down, and everyone went in different directions to search more effectively. After the scene ended, the next scene showed that it had been 3 days and nobody had been found. Telly was sitting on a bench talking to himself, worrying about his fellow citizens of Sesame Street. Elmo then came up and tried to comfort him, also learning that Susie, Henry, Bert, and Ernie were missing too. Elmo was just on the brink of relaxing him when the camera zoomed out to show that the Umbrella Man was standing right next to them. They looked over at him in fear, and the scene ended. After this, a scene showing a random Muppet running in the streets yelling, "Beware the Umbrella Man!" after running into Hooper's store. Mr. Hanford and some others calmed him down and got him to explain. The Muppet explained that he saw the Umbrella Man take Telly and Elmo, and knew he was responsible for the others disappearing. Big Bird was amongst the crowd and looked towards the viewer, pondering if this supposed umbrella man was behind his friends disappearing. Just when he was about to ask the Muppet a question, the Muppet was gone, and a silhouette of a tall man holding an umbrella passed by the window. Big Bird ran outside to find no one, and he went into his nest for a slump. Mr. Hanford told the other patrons of the store to relax and that the whole thing would be sorted out very soon. The camera angle changed to show the umbrella man standing just outside the shop, but they were all oblivious to his presence. The scene ended in a slight zoom into the man's face, a very smooth face, with no sign of hair or expression. The next scene showed Big Bird sitting on the steps of the 123 Sesame Street building alone. He sat sighing and wondering where everyone went. He told the viewer that nearly everyone was gone, and he was scared. Oscar came out of his trash can, wondering what the noise was. Big Bird was relieved to know that he wasn't alone, but Oscar wasn't so happy. Oscar explained that he was enjoying the peace and quiet while Big Bird woke him up from his nap. Big Bird apologized, but started going on rambling about how his week was awful. One camera shot was of Big Bird's face, and then it went to the shot of the both of them, with a small part of the umbrella man being visible. But both were oblivious. Big Bird then said that this was the best day of his week since he found Oscar. When the camera focused in on his face, but just after he had said that, the shot zoomed out to show that Oscar and his trash can had vanished. Big Bird went quiet, and solemnly walked towards the pole where the episode began. He looked around a bit, then down towards his feet, looking more miserable than ever. The last shot of the episode showed him looking down, the umbrella man walking up behind him. I was a little shocked by what I saw. I didn't know what moral purpose this episode gave, if any. Maybe stranger danger? I don't know. This was a pretty creepy episode, not just by Sesame Street standards either. I mean, everyone you love going missing all of a sudden? That's quite horrible for kids. Nay, even adults to watch or comprehend. I haven't let Millie watch this episode for obvious reasons, but I still have the disc. I don't know if I'm the only one who has this episode or if it was aired at all. I know that this was real. If this isn't legit, it's quite the high-scale ripoff. I have looked on the internet for details, but nothing informative came up. Just stuff about canceled episodes and banned episodes, like the one with the Wicked Witch came up. But for now, I'll have to settle with the knowledge that this exists, whether I like it or not.
In fear and surprise, as your eyes widen, your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave, glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping horror-driven nightmarish gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.